Hey there Wargamers, Austin here with Death Ray Designs, and today we're going to be using our Death Mask stencils to add some extra pizzazz to some of our base toppers. So here we've got one of our ship hull inserts, and we're going to be painting this up today, but we're also going to be using one of our Death Mask stencils. This one is the Hex Halftone, and as you can see, we've got some large hexes on this side, and it transitions into smaller hexes over here. We're going to be putting some of that pattern in some of these regions here on the base, along with painting up the rest of it with the intent to take some of these more open areas and give them some extra details. So we're going to start off with some really simple, more traditional techniques for painting this base, and then we're going to save the stenciling for the last part, which we're going to do through some frisket film just to isolate the area that we want to work on. So let's go ahead and get started on some of the simpler areas in the perimeter. Down here we've got a couple of spaces, so this whole strip here and this little tiny notched corner along with the hazard stripes and this piece over here we're going to do with some slightly more normal techniques, both airbrushing and just a normal paintbrush. And then this big area in here we're going to use the halftone hex stencil on, and we can get some really cool gradient effects both with the airbrush and with the stencil itself because it sort of fades away into smaller hexes. So the first color we're going to use is Desolated Beach, and we're going to make these areas on the perimeter on these sides this color, and we're going to have them sort of fade into this kind of medium brown tone cracked leather. So let's put our lighter Desolated Beach down first, and then we'll come back in. We're not worried about getting it onto the surrounding areas right now just because we're going to be able to cover that stuff up and paint some more. Just putting down full coverage right now. We're not worried too much about transitions. I'm just going to get that done. Maybe this outer edge right here is also that same tone as well. There we go. Making a good start. So let's rinse this out real fast. We'll move on to the brown. We're back with the brown, and we're just going to have it fade a little towards the outside, warm it up just a little bit here. Just want a little touch on the edges. We want to keep it still relatively kind of cream colored. Okay, I'm going to take a business card here and set it on that edge. I'm going to spray actually onto the card here. Give me a little sort of feathered edge. So this looks great, but I think we need to, we've maybe gone a little bit too far into the gray area, and let's use a little bit of maybe an ivory color to sort of bring things back into the middle. We've got some ivory paint loaded up in here, and we're going to come right into the inner parts here. Try to liven that up just a little bit. I feel like we still got a little bit of that black showing through, and Desolated Beach is kind of it's a warm gray more than it is a cream color. So now it's time for a little bit of frisket film. This is part of the process that, I mean, we're kind of going a little bit above and beyond here, just because you could kind of do this in a different order and not have to use frisket film, especially if you're doing a lot of this by hand as opposed to by using airbrush. But this will show some fun and different techniques, and maybe you guys will be interested in trying them out. So we've got our frisket film that is just a plain, perfectly see-through, transparent film. Just gonna press it down on there, and I'm gonna cut away everything that we still want to work on here. So we're just gonna use the grooves that are already cut in these base toppers as a little bit of a guide, and then just pull the knife along through. Now we're going to peel off the middle area that we're going to work on next. And now we can start working on the area in the middle. More specifically, we're going to work on the hazard stripes next. So we're going to begin by blacking those back out. So that will be predominantly the color we're going to use. I know hazard stripes are meant to be super in your face because they're supposed to be warning signs. But there's a nice little effect that we've done on a couple of things in the past where it's a little bit more subtle and it just looks like a stylistic choice as opposed to an actual hazard sign. So let's do that. Okay, it's going to take a second to dry and we'll be back after I clean this airbrush. All right, so we've got some of the frisket that we pulled out of the middle here, and I'm just going to go ahead and reapply that right on top of the area that we're going to work on here. We're going to be leaving the side rails of our hazard stripes black, and then every other one of the interior ones we're going to do in a like mid-tone gray. Okay. So here we go. Let's start the gray on this one here. So now we're going to go back and peel up all of our little pieces here. Be careful not to scratch the paint. Just give it a quick press to make sure everything's still down. And now let's hit it with a little bit of gray. Now I'm starting off with a fairly bright, like base gray color here, but I think that we should probably tone it down a little further than that. Maybe do a couple of drops of this to maybe a drop of black, just so that we've got, I don't know. I just think that a little bit more subtle of an effect is going to look cool on this. Yeah. I feel like that's still a little bit, so this is the color I just sprayed next to black. Now granted, it's not a super opaque black, but I still think that's maybe a little on the dark side. Let's throw just a little bit more of the gray in and see where we can get. Okay, I'm thinking that's probably a lot better there. So let's do one final check here, just make sure all of our frisket film is down. And we're gonna start down here at this bottom edge on screen. We're going to leave a little bit of it untouched at the top there, or just minimally touched. Get it fairly opaque at the bottom. I'm thinking that's looking pretty cool. So let's see what that effect actually looks like underneath our frisket film. Now, that is very subtle, but I do like just that it gives us a little bit of pop of detail there without necessarily like super overpowering it. Okay, so let's grab another little short sliver of frisket film just to cover up this area that we did a second ago, and then we can move on to the rest of it. I think it's probably actually going to be safer if we just cover up that whole area and then come back in and trim. There we go. We got that mask back off. Now let's do one last step before we really get into the stencil stuff. We've got our like little hatch cover and we've got this little grate right here. We've still got the gray loaded up in our airbrush. So let's use a little bit of that to darken those back down a touch. Super duper easy. And then I'm gonna dump this out and throw a little bit more black in there and we'll do a quick transition on those. And that will be that. Throw a little on two sides of that grate. So I'm happy with where we're at right now. I just need to mask those bits off. Like I said, time for stencils. So we're gonna go back to the well one more time on that piece that we were using early on. It's just the excess from that. Let's see if we can just lay this out in such a way that we can see both of those pieces. Cut everything out except for those. Now for the fun one. do a circle. Peel up all the rest. So we've got some super duper bright orange colors from Montana. This is the Montana acrylic paint pen refill stuff. If you've seen any of our other videos, we use them a ton. And I really like them because they are super, super bright and in your face. This one in particular is Shock Orange Dark. So we're just going to coat this whole surface in that real quick. That is very, 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 very bright. So for the secondary color, we're using Shock Orange Light. Now, if you don't have these colors or you don't want to use these colors, totally fine. But the idea is that with this particular technique, we're going to use a darker color and then a transition to a lighter color, and then we're going to use the stencil back with the darker color again, so that it kind of fades away into the darker color. So we're going to have the transition go from light on this side to dark around that. So let's go ahead and start laying a little bit of that down. And we want to get a little bit of this at least on every part of this because we're going to be using that dark orange again. We don't want the stenciling to fade completely into it. So we want to have it just a slightly lightened version of itself. Okay, so that is looking super bright and sunny now. Really liking how that's coming out. Let's get this paint dry and we'll stencil it up. We've got our stencil now, finally, here at the end of the process. So we're going to pick out, let's do this smallest one on this side here. So now we've got our adhesive stencil and we're going to lay this up. Let's have it just overlap over the edge here. Let's make sure that there's not anything that intersects funky or looks weird. I kind of like how how it lines up on top of that little grate there. I'm going to see if I can get that to line up because the ones around it will look really nice then if you do it that way. Okay, so I'm just going to press this on down, make sure we're laying flat. And now we're going to load up some of the dark Shock Orange again. So we're going to take this nice and slow. You don't want to super flood this all at once. Gonna just hit this with the hairdryer real fast to just flash dry it, and we're gonna peel up a corner of this real fast and just check and see how we're looking before we are fully committed to it. Okay, I think I'm liking that. I think that's a good amount of contrast. It also looks like we are peeling up our some of the paint off the back of the frisket film there. Let's stick that over here for the moment. Now this is looking like a real hot mess at the moment, but let's go ahead and start unwrapping our Christmas presents, aka peeling away all of the other masking films. All right, now we just need to get in here. Let's get the actual knife. One more. Can he do it? If I could just get that corner. Come on. Don't scrape any paint. There we go. Look at that bad boy. We've got our base topper complete. And we can mount it onto our base. We've just cut a little puck here. Just something for the backer. I think that looks pretty wicked cool. I'm so old. I said wicked cool. This is pretty much done now. I really like just how much that added to this. And you can use some of these same techniques on other base toppers. And this one we took a little bit further and we used a slightly different hex stencil. This one is the Hex Field Flux. But I also went in and did a little bit of extra masking and threw in some shade on those. and also did some edge highlighting, which I think really helps that one pop a lot. Well, thank you all for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, learned something, had some fun, or just got hyped for these cool new stencils. So go over to deathraydesigns.com like right now. Go check them out. We've got hazard stripes and hex and harlequin and tons of squad markings and something for every project under the sun. We think you're going to find everything you need there, but if you don't, give us an email, shoot us a message on Facebook, and let us know what you're looking for, and we'd be happy to do something custom for you. We've also got a couple other videos with these stencils out right now, so check those out, see some other techniques and some other interesting examples. And thanks again. Until next time, happy wargaming.